Hi everyone, welcome to the Startup Operator podcast. I'm Roshan and I'll be speaking to my friend Pradeep Soundararajan today. Pradeep is the co-founder and CEO of Moolya. Moolya is one of the best-known software testing companies in India, and Pradeep is a relentless evangelist of the field. We'll try to understand a lot more in this conversation. Welcome, Pradeep. Thanks for making the time.
Well, thanks for your kind words. I'm glad I said a hi to you in the gym, which led to friendship so far.
That was 3 years back.
Yeah, right? Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So this is going to be one of our Sunday morning conversations, the usual, where we bump into each other and talk for about an hour or so. The only difference is we have funky backgrounds this time. Right? Yeah. And we're going to record this. So I know I've asked you this before, and we've spoken at length about it. Mm-hmm. How are you so passionate about software testing, and take us through your torrid love affair that you've had with testing?
Yeah, certainly. So the best thing to happen to my professional life is I started my first job was in a startup. It was called ImpulseSoft. It was a startup. It was in JP Nagar in a bungalow with just 20 employees and things like that. And a lot of my friends around that time were dreaming to be a part of large companies, but I somehow got very lucky to get into a startup. And then this company had a they were a startup even before the startups became popular in India. And I could see a lot of Guy Kawasaki influence and all of those books everywhere around in the company. And, they said, hey, we don't have developer positions right now, but we can give you a tester position. And at that time in 2003, I didn't even know, testing existed as a profession, right? So like everybody else, I asked the question saying that, okay, is this related to software engineering? They said, yeah, pretty much. So I took it up, and then there was a lot of parity between a developer and a tester that existed, then. It still exists, but not so much as it did in 2003. And like everybody else, I wanted to become a software developer because that was much higher paid, and there was a lot more sexiness in there and all of that stuff. And then I approached my architect who then became my mentor, and I asked him, can you coach me on software engineering and software development and all of that stuff? And then he gave me this Kernighan and Ritchie book on C, because they were largely developing embedded software. And I was halfway through the book, and he was helping me with all those exercises and the feedback and all of that stuff. But then one day he pulled me aside and said, look, you're good in testing. I think you should stick to it, because there are a lot of passionate developers, but I have not come across somebody who's really good in testing. So it's not that I did not like testing and I wanted to move to development, but it's that they put on a sexy layer around development, which made it look like I should do this. And just like any other very young person, I was just so tempted. But then overcoming that temptation and falling in true love with testing has, in hindsight, has been way better. The world now has one less bad programmer and a possible better tester. Possible. I wouldn't say, great, because there are a lot of people out there.
You're being very humble.
Yeah.
So that's very humble, and humility doesn't suit your general style. So.
No, I mean, so that's the truth. That's the truth. I know, like, how bad a programmer I would have been, and also in terms of testing, just like what we were discussing, before this, right? Yeah. So many people in this world who are always smarter than you, so that's something that I've come to discover. So that's how it actually began, and that's how I fell in love with it. And after that is a journey of how I became an independent consultant, and then a lot of my consulting customers were asking me for Where do I outsource the testing to? And I was pointing fingers somewhere else. And then I realized that my parents had taught me an important lesson: don't point finger at others. So I started pointing at myself and said, I can do that. I can get it done. And that's how it was born. But also, since I had been coached by some of the people who were forward thinkers at that time, and they helped me develop a testing style and approach that did not suit enterprises at that time. So I had to stick with startups. And thankfully, by the time around, I started Moolya, a lot of startups were coming up, and our first few customers turned out to be a Paytm and a Flipkart and Ola's and things like that. So that's how the journey has been.
Yeah, that was, I think you're talking about 2007, 2008, right? Or probably 9, 10, I think. Yeah. There was a time when, the Flipkarts, and I think it was post Series A of Flipkart,
Correct. Yeah.
Ola, and plenty of others, right? So
Yeah.
I remember those times. So why is it that, QA testing is seen as unsexy, boring, by people? I mean, why does it have that tag?
Yeah. So a few years ago, my answer would have been different. So thankfully, I have a more refined, better answer right now. So I think that in business, so after becoming a proper businessman, I had this bipolar disorder at one point of time, that I was a tester and I was a businessman. I was not sure which one I was wavering to at what time I was speaking. Now I'm very clear I am a businessman. So now that I'm clear that I am a businessman, I the way I understand is that there are direct impact creating roles, and there are indirect impact creating roles. The businesses value direct direct impact creating roles. For example, like what you could be doing, lead gen is like a super important thing for every business, and that's like a direct impact creating role where you can see the impact that you're creating. Now testing happens to be something which is an indirect value creation, indirect impact creation for businesses. So that way, that's one of the reasons why the importance and all of that stuff overall has been like that. Now, but the good news is that the current generation, we are seeing a lot of changes, especially thanks to startups and all of that stuff. They've understood the value of it. They're trying to bring in a lot of tools and innovation and everything into it. They are the ones who have actually put testing on a reduced parity as compared to development and all of that stuff. But even now, there are a lot of corporations who look at testing as a non-impact creating role. And also tested code and untested code looks like the same, unless unless a customer complains about it, right? So people find it easy to bypass that and then actually move on, because the pressure to release can sometimes take over the need for a good assessment. And also, I think that the good news that's happening right now is that the world is realizing that quality needs to come in as a culture. There can't just be one QA team. The whole company is a QA team. Only then so the company can succeed.
Yeah. So how much of this is driven by the era of applications that we're seeing right now? Whether it's consumer internet, it's very easy to go and like download an app or put a bad comment on it if it crashes and so on, right? Or I mean, the era of SaaS, where people can cancel your subscription instantly, right? As against the previous era of like somebody somewhere 1,000 miles away bought a piece of software and you were bound to use it forever and ever because nobody wanted to switch, right? So how much of this you're seeing as an impact of these new breed of applications?
That's a very good line of thought, Roshan. The thing is this, like let's say in 2007-8, prior to this era that we are seeing right now, people used to download software, but people did not have opportunities to review and influence the world and all of that stuff, right? So today, when we go and try to download an app that we have not heard of, uh, we go through the review comments, we go through the reviews that people have put, and there people talk about bugs, and this is sucking my battery, this is crashing often, the last the previous upgrade was better than the current one. So all of these things the customers are talking about, and this is influencing. So no matter how much money you spend on marketing, your customers are your biggest sales folks and the marketing folks, right?
Absolutely.
So from that perspective, the world, the empowering customers to talk about their experiences has certainly created a change. But that said, there are still corporations, there are still companies who seem to be oblivious to all of that stuff and still going in the traditional approach or the previous era approach. So I would like to credit a few leaders who have come out and been bold about this and who have made those changes. So I recently shared about the stories that of phone pay, the way they are looking at engineering, the way they are looking at quality. What's a Zerodha, the way they are looking at quality. They've blogged recently, which is a fabulous read. So I think leaders like Rahul Chari and those are the kind of leaders who are actually creating the influence. So that's also essential part of the change.
Yeah. I mean, if you look at SaaS, for example, the user and the customer, rather the decision maker, is sort of converging right now. So there is no escaping with a shitty experience on the quality front. So you spoke about this culture of quality, right? Now, quality seems like one of those truisms that everyone wants to commit to, unless they really want to commit to. You know what I mean? So in this, move fast or fail fast kind of a breakneck speed that people are running in, how do we build this culture of quality, and whose responsibility is it?
Yeah, so that's a very beautiful question. So in the last, so I got to tell you a bit of story. The first 10 years. So I'm completing 17 years this August 23rd. The first 10 years, I thought that finding a lot of bugs is going to change the quality of product. Then the next few years, I was like, hey, I've done so much of it, but I've still not seen the impact, right? Because I want to create impact as a businessman. And then I realized that I got to go plug the source of the bugs. I got to prevent bugs. And then I tried, I tried writing automation that can catch bugs early and all of that stuff. But even then, I did not see a change. And that's when my search of the Holy Grail began. and in the search of Holy Grail, I found out that the culture of quality, we have all heard that culture eats strategy for breakfast, right? And similarly, culture eats quality for a snack. So it's not even considered like a meal. It's just like a small snack that people have. And this culture is largely driven by the C-level folks and the V-level folks. The rest of the organization follows the culture set by the C-level folks and the V-level folks. This is what I've actually discovered. And if that culture is not set by the C and the V-level folks, then the whole organization, disintegrates in terms of the quality aspect of it, right? So that's how I see as it. Now, there's one more, small pointer I'd like to add here, is that, we talk about, what's the culture of quality, right? So people know what they should be doing. People also understand that there are, pressures. People understand that there are, budget constraints. So it's not going to be ideal situation all around. But the culture of, what's a quality sometimes it's about slowing down and thinking. It's not about being in hurry. So it's this, right? Metaphorically, I can give this example. You can drive a car super fast. It's fun, right? So you can release at super fast pace, but if the safety is not taken care, one small freak accident can actually disrupt the life and the car. So quality is like the optimal speed at which you should go. And if you want to go fast, put in bigger safety measures, like a Formula One car. It crashes at 323 kilometers per hour speed, and still the driver doesn't die because there is enough safety taken care of. But there are what's the Altos, which goes at 80 and crashes, and people die and the car gets damaged. So that's what I'm saying, that the safety level needs to be understood and assessed and built before the speed is actually put in. So that's how I'd like to describe it as.
So that's a very interesting point that you bring up. So what you're essentially saying is that, look, I mean, you don't have to benchmark to the platinum level of whatever testing or quality is. You just have to know what you can live with at that point of time for what you want, right? So that your user and customer experiences the best quality for the grade of use. For that grade of use, essentially. Yeah. And I also agree with you. I think it's a very top-down thing. I think if your C-level folks or VP level folks are hacky, I mean, it's just going to trickle down, right? And I could not agree more with you that it's not just the function of I mean, it's not just the responsibility of the QA or the testing guys, right? Yeah. So how do you get engineers to sort of respect quality, and how do you get them to work along with their testing colleagues?
Okay. So this is
that's your life's work, right?
That's my life's work so far. So when so here's what it is, right? We all wanted to do the most sexiest jobs in the world. So when we were children, and when people asked like, okay, what do you want to be? I'm sure most of them said, I want to be a pilot, I want to be an astronaut, I want to be that, I want to be this, because those were the sexy things at that time. So right now, even within the software engineering, after it became a super sexy thing to be a part of, within that, there is these developers who have made an impact, and so everybody wants to kind of be there, and so that when you have something like that in mind, you may not even experience the joy of what you're doing today. So what has been a secret of success, I mean, it's not a secret, I just use that word, is that we help people see the beauty and joy of testing. We help people, we remove obstacles from their minds to help them see the value that they can contribute, the impact that they can create as, testers. And this is what has made us to build some of the most fantastic software testers from India. So that's what I'd say.
Yeah, I mean, testing for a lot of people, right? And a layman's perspective would be that it's a fault-finding mission, right? Figure out all the 40 things that are wrong with something that somebody committed to, right? And obviously, I mean, nobody likes that. Nobody really likes that. How do you paint the vision of quality being more than just a fault-finding mission, and it making a richer, more usable customer experience?
Yeah, so that's how testing was born. That there was somebody else building it, and people had to just report bugs. But over the years, I think many leaders have understood that does not work, and they need to integrate quality into engineering. Otherwise, it's this independent testing approach is not scalable and useful unless testing does certainly has an independent voice, but is very well embedded into the teams. So from, what's it, that perspective, uh, the world has moved from finding bugs to saying that, hey, I can find a lot of bugs, but if I don't fix them, my quality is not going to change. I'm not necessarily saying that merely fixing bugs is is quality improvement. I have seen, I've been in um, a very interesting context where every time they fixed a bug, they added 3 new bugs. So the best quality improvement idea I suggested is, don't fix any bugs. I will also not find any bugs. You don't fix any bugs also, right? So essentially, I think that people need to understand that it's not just about the finding what's a bugs part of it. Okay, now people have realized that, okay, I need to prevent these things. But for generations, they have produced people who are finders, not preventers. So right now there is a huge talent crunch on finding preventers. And what the world needs to understand is that that talent won't be available in the market, and they have to create that talent. Now, unfortunately, many companies, many startups don't have the time to create the talent. They want to move. I mean, like, they would have committed to a VC that they'll go at a 30%, month on month, and they can't think about setting up a university of testing and all of that stuff. So that's where I think companies like us come in, where we are absolutely committed to creating the preventers, and instead of the finders, which is what is adding value and all of that stuff.
Really sorry for the interruption. I'm just going to take a minute of your time to talk to you about something amazing. Move fast, break things. All of that is great advice for when you have nothing to lose. But once you have some base of users and customers, you cannot really afford to risk quality. So how do you still ship at lightning pace and delight your users and customers at the same time? Now that's where Bagasura comes in. Bagasura is a super easy way for people to give and take feedback about the product, and most importantly, close the loop. If you work in a design team, you know screenshots suck. But with Bagasura, you can actually get people to give you very contextual and accurate feedback about your UI and your UX. If you work in a QA team, you know 90% of your time goes in reproducing bugs. But with Bagasura, you can get people to reproduce bugs, document test cases, and resolve things all within Jira itself. Bagasura is being used by some of the leading design and QA teams around, and it's brought to you by the good folks at Moolya Testing, which is one of the best software and QA firms in the world. Do check out bagasura.io, that's BUGASURA.io, and sign up for a demo today. Ship fast and ship well. So, yeah, I mean, you spoke of startups, and, startups have this credo of fail fast, and, they have this pressures of exponential growth and so on and so forth, right? The hockey stick growth that everyone talks about. So how do you balance QA for such a company, right? Such a company that's growing at some hyper growth speed. And why is it important? Why is it particularly important for those kind of companies?
Okay.
Startups.
Yeah. Okay. Again, another fabulous question. I appreciate the homework that you've done for this.
I'm all about the homework.
Huh?
I'm all about the homework, I said.
You're all about the homework.
Right? I'm kidding. So I'm just I just asked those questions which seem very intuitively sort of like, I mean, I'm just on a 101 mission here. I'm just trying to find out things from a very layman perspective.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
So I want you to rephrase the question of what you just asked. Okay, so that I try to understand the depth of why you asked the question.
Okay, let me just try to rephrase it in a better way, right? So I'm a startup. I've just raised some funding, and I'm expected to grow, as you said, let's say 30% month on month.
Yeah.
I am hiring more people than I can manage at this point of time. right? And I'm shipping a ton of things on my product. I'm trying to catch up with my competitors, possibly, who are also doing the same thing, right? And given this speed of things, right, on the floor, how do I prioritize quality? How much do I prioritize quality? And why is it important for me?
Okay, so let's first now. Okay, now I'm more glad I asked you to rephrase this. Quality and testing are two different things.
Okay, yeah, maybe I think you can explain that.
Right. So quality is in everything we do. It may not involve QA engineers at all, but quality is in everything the company does. The way it sends an email saying this is what's to be done, this is what is thought about.
Sure.
There is quality in that as well. Vague statements, abstract thoughts may not help a developer translate the vision or translate the feature into a reality. That becomes useful. Then there comes the question of testing. So now I think your question suits way more better of, if there are faster pace to go, okay, how do we determine what to test and what not to test? Because there is one space in this whole software engineering that people often crunch, even the best of the companies, is on the testing space in terms of timelines, right? So if the developer had made these assumptions that I can finish it by this time, that gets delayed, but the release still does not get delayed. So you have to crunch the testing time.
Yeah.
So this is where the startup savvy thinking needs to come into picture. This is where a very context driven approach needs to come into pictures. So this is where a business release readiness criteria driven testing that needs to come into picture. So the approach that we've been specializing and doing for a lot of startups is that so we look at what's the release criteria, what's the success criteria of this particular release. Now, okay, prior to that, as we grow, we need to build sufficient good automation. So not too much on the front end, which is a mistake I see even now with so many startups, and I really cry. Every time I see that, there needs to be a lot of automation on the back end, on the API layer. So if that is there, and then for the new features, you obviously can't have automation because it takes time to build that as well, because it's like a parallel software development project. So essentially, what needs to be done in those contexts is to find what's the release criteria, what's the business criteria, and this is where the testers need to have a very good acumen of understanding. Most of the testers that I have interacted with have a very vague understanding of how does this company make money, right? So let's say you go to somebody in e-commerce and say, okay, how does let's say Flipkart make money, and if they're not able to say how are they making money, and if they give a vague answer, and then there is a new feature that's coming in, like let's say GST implementation that had to happen like that, right? Their understanding of that would be very fragmented, and that will lead to a fragmented approach to testing. So essentially, the ability to comprehend release criteria, the ability to comprehend success criteria, the ability to understand the customer user context and the business objectives of that particular crunch to release time will result in just 5 simple tests, not 500 tests, 5 simple tests to qualify if this is release ready. But the approach that I see is people come up with set of test cases and they struggle trying to run all of that in this crunch time, which is where the failure happens, because when you're trying to do too many things in a shorter time span than what you think you can, you're obviously going to miss fundamental issues. So this is where I would say, okay, this. And the other thing is that the companies, if they want to go, like let's say Formula One, right? You can't give somebody 5 lakhs and say, build me a Formula One car. And really what? Okay, speaking of that, I just remembered this. as a young kid, I had an Alto car. I sent a mail to, this guy DC, okay, Dilip Chabria,
Yeah, I know.
saying, I have 5 lakhs, I have an Alto, can you convert that into a Formula One car? Obviously, I didn't even get a response for that email. But how impractical it is when I look back. It's like, okay, this is the young kid kind of thought process. It's not mature, it's not practical thought process. So that's where I'd like to conclude, saying that it needs to have a very refined, good understanding of what creates the right approach to testing.
So your karma is catching up with you, Pradeep. So you are getting those kind of requests now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I would just say that, the way to prioritize, you just try expanding outside of India. I think the amount of stuff that we live with in India, and I see that going down drastically as well, but still, just in comparison with US or Japan is amazing that way, right? The focus on quality. Just try expanding to one of these geographies and it'll leapfrog your product many, many months and years, I would say, right? Yeah.
You work with Japanese customers, right?
Oh, it's amazing. It's I mean, sure, it's amazing from an intellectual perspective, but I'm sure that the engineers have a real tough time because some of their test cases are wild, right? I mean, it's like, hey, does this feature work on this remote island? Does this feature work on the 100th floor of a building? Does it work on the 10th floor of a building? I mean, it is like when you say stress test, right? It's just amazing. I don't know if they're just trying to be, creative or if they're if it's.
I'd say it's just they being themselves. And I just want to share an experience with the Japanese customer that we work. So we used to send a build at about 11 in the night their time.
Yes.
And
I know where you're going with this.
2 a.m. we would get a response saying that, hey, they'd sometimes wake us up and say, hey, these are the things that you guys kind of missed out. So what we started to do, I mean, this was a manager's decision. I was a junior engineer at that time. They tried to not release at 11 o'clock in the night. They tried to release at 4 a.m. in the morning. And at 5:30, we used to get an email still. So then we decided that we'd rather move the release time to afternoon so that we have time to, we don't need to wake up and things like that. So I think working with multiple geographies sets in this beautiful culture. And this is also where I think the global exposure that my team and I have had has largely helped understand, different contexts. So that way we are able to funnel a lot of value to the existing customers.
Yeah. No, totally. And I think it's a cultural thing for them. So I see, I stopped sending emails after a particular point to my Japanese colleagues because an email in the inbox means that it has to be replied to whenever they get it, right? So yeah, I mean, it's a fantastic culture actually. And the more I learn about it, the more I become curious about them, So what is your secret sauce, Pradeep? What do you have, like a sort of a sequential step 1, step 2, step 3 to set things right and to ensure like 100% quality, something of that?
Okay. So I've said this to myself a lot, but this is the first time I'll be saying it in public. I am an average intellect guy. I am not the super intellect guy. I behave just like how the average intellects behave. So for me, somebody like a Kunal Shah is a super intellect, right? And without naming other kind of entrepreneurs, they are on the lower spectrum. I've been an average student throughout my life, and one thing that I've learned by being an average student and accepting that I'm an average student. It's not like I'm an average, but I want to be on the elite class yet. So one thing for me that has worked being an average guy is that is about persistence. So the super intellects take 3 years to solve a problem. I take 5 years to solve a problem. But if I give up on the third year because they did it and I could not do it, I will never be able to do it. This one aspect has helped me solve a lot of problems, like real shitty problems that I had to go through in the entrepreneurship life, and to create. And the other thing is this, the other thing is I did not know how to work with other people. So being a bootstrap founder, there's cash flow pressures and all of that stuff, right? The cash flow pressures got to me, and I was forced to behave in a certain way with people, and I definitely behaved like an asshole, right? So working, and I lost the idea of how to work with people. I was treating them like machines. But I think in the last 5 years, I've had the space and time to think like a human being and behave like a human being with other human beings, and that has created phenomenal success. Given that we are, what's a bootstrapped, and the scale at which we are and the scale at which we are getting towards, I think that's phenomenal. So I say this, that the first 5 years of growth happened because I was involved. The next 5 years of growth happened because I was not involved. And the people did, and I just shut my mouth. I just said, okay, guys, I'm here to support you. I'm your servant, so you can reach out to me for support and help. And I was not letting people fail. I was trying to prevent people from failing. Okay, I'm supposed to prevent bugs, and sometimes to prevent bugs, it is to let people fail and help them reflect and see why did they fail. But I was preventing a total of that. And now, today I am very, very tolerant to people's failure as long as they're learning. So within my leadership team, we have a form that the leadership team fills in, where they talk about what's been their biggest failures and what's been their lessons learned. I just look at lessons learned and sit back and relax, saying that I have a great team. So that's the way. This is not essentially a secret sauce, but this is the pragmatism in which I'm dealing with today, and let's see if that changes the trajectory in the future. So
yeah, that's awesome. I think you should be a lot more perseverant with yourself as well as others, right? As long as you're trending in the right direction, I would say. So yeah. So there's always this talk of automation and AI replacing a bunch of things, right? And testing is obviously not alienated from that. In fact, people believe that that's one of those things that they want to automate and they want to do away with, right? They don't want to deal with testers. And you are a champion on the human side of things, right? And you've written extensively on why human-led, applied intelligence is a lot more important and it can never be replaced, right? So you want to make your point on that?
Yeah, sure. As a tester, I want intelligent tools to come and help me. I have not found those tools that help me as a tester. So that's the reason. Now, there are a lot of automation tools. So here is one thing that we should qualify about automation. You can automate anything in software, but it doesn't mean it's of value. Right? So that's how the testing business, especially in the automation space, is plagued by crappy automation. So there are some of my friends who are the real experts in automation, like Rahul Verma. He goes and consults company, and what he says is that 85% of automation code is redundant. And even if you chop off the 85%, the tests still run with the 15% of the code. Okay, and my other what's a colleague and another real expert, Anand Bagmar, from his consulting experience, he has shared with me that 90%, 80 to 90% of the tests don't yield any value at all, which are automated, don't yield any value at all. So people, they think that once the automation has come into picture, they can retire from their mind that the testing is automated. It's a continuous process. It's a continuous process to keep assessing, is this test of value, is this test of value. So today, the automation is certainly more sexier than the human approach to testing. But what they fail to realize is that the human still needs to be there for the automation to continue to be useful. Okay, this is one. Okay, the second thing is that about AI. Typically the big problem that comes in when we are talking about the human value of testing and all of that stuff is people think that I'm kind of sometimes anti-automation or anything like that. That's the stereotype that they bring into their mind. I've tried resisting it, but now I like chalo yaar, okay, jisko samajhta hai wo samajh lega. Okay, so right, some people want gossip, so that's fine with me. And I truly value good tools and good automation. So for instance, so this is the tool that we've been
I was going to ask you about that. So I was
Right?
going to ask you about that. Speaking of tools, I mean, you're building a few of them yourself, right? You're building a few products like Bagasura, Apache, and so on. So you can talk about that as well.
Yeah. So essentially, in our journey to solve a lot of these startup problems, testing problems, we have used a lot of popular open source commercial tools for various contexts of what we have actually tested. And then we started finding gaps in it, and then we started finding opportunities to build our own tools and innovation that needed to be existed that does not exist. And can say that this needed to be existed, but it does not exist. Hey, that's how startups are born. Startups are born because they're able to see a gap that others were not able to see. So like that, for me, having been a tester and having the love of tools, we've built a bunch of tools. One is the Apache, which was one of the earliest, bot driven, testing a platform for mobile apps. And then we built Perfetchi. So Perfetchi is an SDK that that is used for performance profiling, which now a couple of large corporations and startups have started to consume and use. And now we are actively also building Bagasura. So Bagasura is for people like for anybody in the company. Like how I'm saying that quality is already become everybody's responsibility, and hence testing is also going to be everybody's responsibility. So like for example, if you want to report a bug in the Vimo app as a marketing person, okay, how are you reporting right now? You're taking a screenshot, you're sending it to somebody, maybe a WhatsApp group or a Slack channel, and then it has to go through its own life cycle. And then people always come back to you and say, hey, give me some more details. Did you do this? So they have to go to the back end. They have to see the logs. A whole lot of time is wasted around a simple bug report. So what we decided to do is we decided to build Bagasura to automate that bug reporting aspect of it for everybody in the organization. So that's what this is the automation of bug reporting, but this is not yet considered automation tool by a lot of folks in the industry, because their idea of automation is narrow to just running tests. But reporting of bugs, preparation of tests, preparation of test data, enabling everybody to test, automating all of this is not yet a big space. But that's where I believe as a founder that this vision of us is going to lead us to a great big opportunity. And I can already tell you that we've used this on a couple of projects. Our customers are liking it, and I just did a survey with the users last week, and I asked them this question of, now assume if I shut down, Bagasura, what difference does it make to your life? Right? That's an important, question to ask, right?
Yeah.
So here is one, beautiful thing that they said is like, now I'm going to find lesser bugs because I'm going to waste time trying to reproduce the same bug for too many times, showing it to people, explaining this is what I've done, this is what I've done. So this Bagasura captures everything, okay, puts it into a snapshot and pushes it to the developer. So that's kind of very pleasing to hear. We still have a long way to go. And also the designer community has caught up with this quite well, because they are the ones who are also reporting a lot of issues at a GUI layer. So they're also loving it, and we are in a good journey in that front. And thanks to your help as well, the call that I had with you about a month and a half, after which some of the sales have actually clicked. So
awesome.
Yeah.
I love that. So you're a very passionate person, right? Clearly, I think people who are listening to this podcast would know by now, right?
Mhm.
And your passion is also about what is. I mean, you're able to transmit this passion to your employees as well, right? It's amazing to see them on social media talking about some of the things that you guys do. And you really live your values in terms of a fun workplace, and that's something that I've really admired about you and Moolya, right? What is the secret to that? I mean, you said you're building fun testers, right? So if I want to build fun testers in my organization, or I want to build fun marketers in my team, what is your 3-point formula for that?
Okay, so Roshan, you have been a founder. You are a founder. I've been a founder. I am a founder. One thing that we all know is that the reason why we found and co-found companies, is because it feels us. It feels like ours. It feels like there is a strong connect.
Skin in the game.
Right? Now, the only way for startups to succeed is when the people, the employees feel that strong connect. And for them to feel the strong connect, there are a lot of typical corporate things that comes on their way. Right? Now, removing those obstacles that come on their way to feel that they are a co-founder of this company is the I wouldn't call it a secret weapon, is how I think many leaders have successfully been able to create great teams. So for I'll give you an example. How do you react when somebody fails? Matters quite a lot to how they feel as an owner.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. For example, during the orientation program, whenever we onboard employees, I tell them this, that hey, look, I am the biggest mistake maker in this company. The day you make a bigger mistake than me, then you become the CEO. Right? I mean, so I tell them, okay, there's a challenge. What is the biggest mistake you can make? Right? And then they say, okay, I can do this, I can do this, I can do this, I can do this. I said, look, I can cost this company much more than you. Right? I can do the biggest fuck up in this company. Now, and I've already done it in the past. Now, if I can do it and I can excuse myself, and if I am judgmental about you, then I am not judgmental, I am mental. Right? So we have done a good deal of removing judgment of people, and supporting them and investing into them. Right? So I just also want to give you a small example. The first 5 years, with all the cash flow crunch hitting my head and all of that stuff, I used to look at firing people faster. Right? And then I realized I was not creating leaders. I was creating machinery which will work in a certain way, and if they don't, I just throw the machine and bring another machine. So they really became resources for me. But then when I started to treat people like people and wanted to create leaders, I understood that every time somebody fails, the first question I ask myself is, what else should I be investing on this person to make this person successful? So that is the core essence of creating leaders, and those leaders do fantastic. So the reason why Moolyans and people in the Bagasura team and the Perfection team share quite a lot of what's a great things is because they feel this is their company and it's not my company alone. So and this point is reiterated, the culture is built, there's no judgment. People have made ton load of mistakes. We've also lost customers, but we have not fired them. And the reason is that when they feel that they're not being judged, they're being given opportunities, they just do fantastic. So this is one person who where we had lost a customer is now leading 6 projects, and all the 6 customers say she's the best person. She's the best person. So that's primarily because investing into people. Now, a typical startup pressures of moving fast, we miss this bus of investing in people. But today, this is what I tell people: I'm not working with you for just this, for this company, for this tenure. You all are my lifelong partners. So I'm not doing transaction with you. I'm building relationships with you. So building that strong, good relationship makes people fantastic, and also has made my life very peaceful, very calm. Okay, because at one point I drew a chart of the center of pain in my organization, and it all once pointed to me. Okay. Now it's like, hey, there are tributaries, there are people who will take the cannonballs before me and fight and win the war and all of that stuff. So yeah, that's the way it is.
It's awesome. I think we can do like a whole podcast on whatever you mentioned right now, about failure, about leadership, about decision making and whatever. I also feel that's the most scalable way to grow an organization. When you induce the maximum skin in the game to people, when you give them something to really care for beyond transactional things, when you show them that you're invested in them, invested in their growth and success, and when you enable them to fail forward, right? I mean, I don't know too many people who would do anything in life if they were held accountable to all of their failures and to the point of deterring them to do anything else, right? So yeah, I mean, that's we should do a follow-up sometime on this specific thing, culture, values, and so on, because I'm sure that you have plenty to add on that front, and I would love to unpack all of those things.
Well, that's your business.
So one of the things you guys would have realized by now is also that Pradeep is a fantastic social media guy. I consider him my guru in that regard. You can just hey, come on. I mean, you've helped me out a great deal. So you can just check out Tester Tested on Twitter or LinkedIn, right? Which is a pretty cool handle. And you will find all of Pradeep's fantastic content on social media, and you'll see the kind of engagement he gets, right? Pradeep, one thing that I really admire is the way that you use social media as a branding, as a lead gen tool, but also while keeping it like supremely authentic, right? Supremely authentic, sincere. You're not trying to put on something. You are just like, I mean, a lot of your posts is something that the two of us might have spoken about, So you want to tell us like a quick hack on, how we can all do social media right?
Yeah. So you use the word authenticity, right? Authenticity generates more leads than anything else does. Okay. which I'm sure you already know. A lot of people already know.
Yeah.
Now, how much of authenticity we know to bring it out, right? So that is that is where I think a lot of people are actually struggling, and the urge to put something out overtakes and modifies the authenticity, right? So for example,
I think let me just sort of like interject there. I think most people have a challenge marrying their authenticity, finding their authenticity. I think that's the first thing, right? Who they are, and then marrying it to something valuable.
Yeah.
I think that would be the two challenges. right?
Yeah.
So how do I go about solving it?
So I think so. We all have been brought up in such a way that we want to show ourselves as good, right? We want to be seen as so. For instance, I published a book, uh, and for a few days it was the bestseller in Amazon and all of that stuff. But I never want to put in my life that okay, best-selling author of this book. Okay, it's like we have seen a lot of people doing that, and because we feel like hey, that's cool. I just want to do that. I just want to get there in life. For me, even if it becomes the best-selling book on a consistent basis, I don't want to add those titles to me because it's not something that like I want to be uh, what's it types, right?
Mm.
So I think we all are conditioned and wired in our brain to follow the the good that others have framed in the mind. And the reason why they struggle with the marrying the genuinity and their ability to come up with some what's a good content is this, right? Now as a startup founder, you would have also experienced that there are a bunch of magazines that reach out to us and say, okay, we're going to feature you as the top 20 startups, top 20 startups. And here's the funny thing, okay? So here's this magazine that reached out to me and said, we're going to feature you as the top 20 wearable tech companies. I'm like, where wearable tech companies are? Hey, I don't do anything on wearables, man. But if I pay
Yeah.
money, right?
Yeah.
So if I pay money, and their businesses are centered around giving that fake sense of push. And given that I've been getting their email for the last 5 years,
Yeah.
I think it's a
Likewise.
booming business. I think it's a booming business, and some entrepreneurs are falling prey to it.
Yeah.
Right. So for me, as I told you, a couple of minutes ago, I have embraced my reality that I'm an average guy. So I don't. I'm. If somebody says, "Hey, Pradeep, you are this super intellect," internally I know, okay, that's your impression of me. But internally, I know who I am. I'm an average guy. So given that I've embraced who I am, and like for example, right, I stammer. I have absolutely embraced it. And after I embraced it, I've realized that I stammer less. Right? So if I don't and I fight with it, then that's where I'll be stammering quite a lot.
Mm.
So for me, accepting the reality makes us more genuine, makes us more more what's it, authentic. And this authenticity married with uh, experimental vocabulary. Oh, I just made that up. Experimental vocabulary gives a good combination of thoughts. And of course, I think I should put uh, I should put a waterproof pen and a paper in my shower, because that's where a lot of thoughts also come into picture, which I then come and put it on LinkedIn and
Yeah.
other social media, right?
Yeah.
So I think people must accept who they are. The moment they accept who they are, their so-called ordinary content starts to look like extraordinary.
Mm.
Okay, to the world. Like for instance, there was a post which I put out about 4 days ago, which has got some 1,000 plus likes, and that post was very simple.
Which is just another day for you, right?
No, it's not that. So there was somebody who let's say sent me an email saying, "Hey, is there any opening in your company?" Like, what? What do you mean? Is there any
Yeah.
opening in your company? Right?
Yeah, so I get that all the time, and it just pisses me off, man. I mean, it's just like, just do your homework, right? And I mean, I've been at the other end, like I've been a job seeker as well, right? And all of us have at some point, right? But and you want to be really empathetic to the person, you want to be really courteous to the person, but they make it so hard, you know. So my standard reply to that is usually, hey, find me an open position that I can refer you to. right? And then send them back basically to do some homework and come back. But yeah, you were saying, sorry.
Yeah, certainly, right. So then having got so many thousands of them, I realized that okay, these people need help, and especially during the time where a lot of people have lost jobs because of the COVID, situation. So my genuinity is to help people succeed. So I wrote a template of how I would like to get an email, and hence I will be serious about this person. So I wrote about saying that, hey, I've gone through this JD. I notice you are the recruiter or you are the recruiting, manager. I qualify only 70% of this JD, and these are things I can pick up. A friend of mine has a positive review about this company, so I'm serious about your company. Boom, right? Yeah. This is what has been what's spreading. There's a lot of people sharing. There's a lot of people still talking about it. That's because I, in terms of authenticity, I want to see people succeed, because it's in their success I get success. It's in their success I get success. And having cracked that, how much ever I can be of help to people is what I'm looking at, what's in this life. So I'm going to be turning 40 this year, and I consider myself retired and full-time into service of people, my customers, my employees, the community at large, my neighborhood. I'm a full-time service person. So that's the way I oriented myself and said, yes, Pradeep, as an average guy, you retired at 40. So
yeah. Okay, so let's switch things up a little bit. Okay, we'll do what we call a rapid fire round. Okay.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So I'm going to catch you unawares, and I'm going to shoot questions at you that you probably wouldn't have thought of. Okay.
Cool.
And let me try to get you with these. What's the funniest thing that an engineer has said to a QA
guy? This works well on my machine.
Okay. And also the most common, I suppose, right? Yeah. On my internet, on my machine. Yeah. The weirdest, most amazing bug that you were able to solve for?
In Motorola.
That you were able to find and solve for?
Yeah. Okay. In Motorola, I was testing a speech recognition, software, and I had to, I had to give my voice samples and all of that stuff, and then it had to recognize whatever I was actually saying. And I was at home frustrated with that, phone that I was actually testing, and then I said, "Fuck!" Right? It crashed. Okay. Now the biggest dilemma that I went through is, how the fuck am I going to report this bug? Right? Then I did some, deeper analysis. A typical, tester would have reported saying that I said fuck and it crashed. Which can't be the case, right? No programmer will write if fuck then crash, right? So then I, did a deep analysis, and then I found out that anything I say very loudly, right, the audio gain is not optimized, to handle that, and hence there's a buffer overflow or something that crashes the app. So this is how scientifically I reported it, but this is how I found it.
Yeah, imagine that. That would have been weird.
Yeah, absolutely right. I was like, and it was repeatable. Every time I say fuck, it would crash.
Imagine the guy repeating. Imagine the guy reading the test report or something of that sort. That would have been.
Yeah, absolutely right. That would be the crazy one. Yeah.
So the best quality product that you've used, ounce for ounce. None of the products you build are eligible, by the way.
Yeah, of course. I know. I wouldn't. What's to say about it? The best quality products that I've used. I would say the Toto, the Japanese toilets. That's the best quality non-software product. In terms of, let's say, software, product, there are actually plenty. I think it would have been easier if it asked me the shitty, buggy products that I've used. But this one, there are actually WhatsApp plenty. So if I want a name, I can say, okay, WhatsApp is pretty good.
Right? Yeah.
It has crashed for me, but it is not like a big problem crash for me. So WhatsApp is very, 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 very good. So,
yeah. For the sheer scale as well. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And Japanese toilets are a whole other experience.
Absolutely right. Absolutely.
Yeah. It's your 10th year as a founder, 17 years in testing. What is your wish list for this year? Is that a very long wish list?
No, I don't have such long what's a wish list. I think I'm going very what's a step-by-step approach. So right now, okay, Moolya is doing very well. We're getting a lot of leads. Employees are very happy. They're growing to be leaders and all of that stuff. So kind of okay, Moolya has reached an semi-autopilot, okay, cruise mode. The products that we have built, like Bagasura, Perfechi, and Apache, they are in a semi takeoff kind of a stage. So the focus is just going there. So that's one. Okay, the second thing is that I want to really expand on the culture of quality and the prevention of bugs, and want to help this industry create more preventers of bugs rather than finders of bugs. So this is the two things that is there on my immediate list. Other things I've not thought through. And of course there is one thing that got added, is that I want this COVID to end. That's the biggest wish list that I have.
Yeah.
It's I want to go meet people.
Seriously.
Yeah.
It seems like a never-ending rut at this point of time. Yeah. So what's your morning routine like?
Morning routine. So think, okay, the moment I wake up, or I think 5 minutes before my mind, my body wakes up, my mind already starts to think about a whole lot of things, and it kind of gives a very good direction. So like, for instance, today morning when I woke up, the first thing that came to my mind is this podcast that I'm going to be doing with you, and what should be the frame of my mind before I get into it. And I had a very good, relaxed frame of mind, okay, before I got into it, because that's what brings the clarity to bring out the pointers that I actually brought out. So this is my regular, okay, thing based on the day. On a non-podcast Sunday, I would absolutely be the lazy guy. Of course, trying to support my wife and my kiddo. But apart from that, the laziest person on earth. So, and I also tweeted about this, saying that I have a bachelor's in engineering and a master's in procrastination. So that's what it is.
Right. And the best quarantine hack that you've discovered over the last 3 or 4 months?
The best quarantine hack is that I am talking to a lot more people now. So I set up this, like how you're doing podcasts. I started to do a series called Coffee with Pradeep, and I announced it up until end of August, and in less than 24 hours, all the 125 slots got filled.
That's how big a star Pradeep is, right? So don't listen to any of his, humble words when he says that he's a very average person and so on.
Average.
So 125 slots filled up in 24 hours. Yeah.
Well, yeah. So that got filled up, and there are some lot of good people I'm talking to, which is helping me discover much deeper about quality and the people's careers and insights that they are bringing onto me. So that's the best hack I've been able to do. Apart from helping my wife. My wife thinks I'm a better husband right now. So yeah.
Hey, nice.
Absolutely.
books or podcasts that you would recommend?
Okay, so yeah, of course, depending on the type of person. So for somebody in the startup space, I think what you're doing is just fantastic. I went through the list of people that you're actually talking to. It's a very interesting list, and I think for somebody interested in the startup, I believe for this series is going to be very helpful for people who are thinking about starting up, because I think the the better people than me are coming on board, and sharing real good insights,
Yeah.
and then you're also being able to bring out a lot of good what's the material out for testers. There are a good series of what's a podcasts. There is one recently being done by my friend Barris. He's also bringing up variety of topics, and we discussed about Rumi and Buddha and testing and things like that, which is something that nobody has ever discussed. So these are some of those things that I recommend. On the YouTube, there are a lot of material about testing, but they're all about learning the tool and how can you get your next best job. But there is very few podcasts about after you get that job, what should you be doing, right? So that is the kind of podcast that I would prefer people to go after. So that's where I'd like to say this.
Awesome. Awesome. Yeah, I mean, so the quality of founders and operators has improved tremendously, right? That's been one thing I've noticed. I mean, in the 30 plus episodes that we've done,
Yeah.
yeah, it's truly amazing how the ecosystem has sort of evolved, right? So Pradeep, this has been
So
a fantastic episode, right, of the startup operator, and plenty of
just
interesting
no,
bites.
no,
But before
no,
we
no.
leave, yeah,
Okay. You've asked me a lot of questions. I want to ask you a couple of questions as well,
say
right? As a, as a,
you can
as
never
a
guess. You can never guess what's going to happen with Pradeep. Yeah, go on.
no, there are. Yeah, I hope people come up with AI algorithms where they can predict what every person will do. But just in case, right? So, what's been your experience? Interacting with the engineering teams. Right now, you're in a marketing function.
Mm,
How do you see the quality of culture
mm,
and innovation and testing in your company right now?
mm. So it's a very interesting question, and I do have. So I've been a product person before. I've been a founder and a product person before. So I do have some background in having worked with engineers, and I kind of empathize with what they're going through, right? And in terms of quality itself, I think it's as you said. I mean, it's a very top-down thing, right?
Yeah.
If your C-level and VP level people are very concerned about quality, that kind of gets translated into any code that your engineers ship, right? And thankfully at Waymo, I mean, we have very, very high standards on those fronts. I mean, our VPs and C-level folks are extremely, distinguished and extremely old-fashioned in those values, I would say, right? I mean, these are guys who have 15, 20 years of experience executing at places like 24/7, Microsoft, so on, right? So they come in with those sort of values, and that kind of translates to the code as well that we ship. The couple of other things, right? So one, we work with financial services companies. We work with large enterprises. 4 of the top 5 banks in India use us. 6, 7 large insurance companies use us. So in Asia, we work with all of these large guys, and there's a lot of criticality to the application, right? So it's not something that you can live with a crash and whatever. If a particular client doesn't have our app for a day, I mean, they will lose about 30 crores of revenue, right?
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So there's a real consequence to quality, I would
Yeah.
say. So that kind of reinforces everyone's commitment to it.
Correct. That's good.
The QA function itself has been built out very thoughtfully. There's a great guy called Deepak. I mean, you should definitely talk to him actually.
Sure.
Maybe, I mean, you could free up one slot and I could introduce Deepak to you.
Sure.
Right? There's a great guy called Deepak who is handling quality, and he's sort of building the right team on those lines. And finally, I would say for us, expanding to Japan has been a revelation, right?
Wow.
I mean, you think you think you care about quality, just wait. Just wait, expand to Japan. And the kind of test cases that we see in Japan, from Japan, and Japan as well, we're working with 3 or 4 of the largest insurance companies there. And that has literally like sort of leapfrogged our product over the last year, I would say, last 10 months to a year.
Right. You brought up a very beautiful point of the impact of the customer's sense of quality on the engineering and the culture of the company itself. That's a beautiful point that you brought out. And when I reflect back, I think people who work with other people who were accepting shitty quality, ended up lowering their sense of quality. I think this is a beautiful thing. I might use it in one of the future.
No, it is. See, the thing is that your product ultimately is benchmarked to the standards that your customer expects, right? So water finds its own level, right? So your testing quality kind of finds the level according to your customer expectations. So if your customer is willing to live with a shitty product, then you will put out a shitty product. Because as a business, given the number of things that you have to care about, you will only optimize it to a degree that it floats, right? So that has been an interesting experience, actually. And this is a fantastic twist to the podcast, guys. I'm getting asked a couple of questions at the end, but I should have thought about it, considering that it's Pradeep. But
That's okay.
So before we leave, any more questions, Pradeep? I don't want to interrupt you.
I think in the interest of your time, I will.
Yeah.
I was curious to know this because you've been asking me a lot.
No, it's only fair.
I'm really grateful to you for bringing this insight.
It's only fair. I think I'm going to use this format in following episodes. I'm going to ask the guest to shoot me a question, right? So thanks for the idea. Before we leave, we're living in difficult times. What is your hope for all of the startup operators who are executing in this time?
This time and the other times as well, for a startup founder, there is always a pandemic in the mind. Right now there is the whole world is agreeing to the pandemic. Right. So what I would say is that the leadership, we all talk about this leadership, but we don't put emphasis on leadership. So I think the most important part of creating a long-term success lies in this thing called leadership. So it has been a test of leadership for a lot of startup founders and operators. And I would only share with them that the more they focus on the leadership, they will see that the rest of the problems that they're concerned about wades off by itself. So that's the message that I'll share.
Very profound. And indeed, we can speak about these things for a whole hour or so, and we should do a values podcast, culture and values podcast, for sure. So
that'll be exciting.
Yeah. So thanks everyone for tuning in. This was a real fun conversation with Pradeep, and the podcast will be published on all popular platforms. If you like this episode, then don't forget to share and subscribe. Stay safe, take care, and see you soon.
Yeah. Okay, bye-bye. I see you.